The millionaire froze the moment she heard the cowboy's voice. "Stay still," he ordered, his tone low, steady, and terrifyingly calm. Her breath caught in her throat. She didn't dare look down, but she could feel his fear, yes, his fear, pressing into the air between them. Then he added, barely above a whisper, "The snake is 20 centimeters from your leg." Before the story continues, if you enjoy emotional, inspiring stories that warm the heart, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment on Kindness World. Your support helps us bring more real, human stories like this one. Now, let's begin. It happened on a scorching afternoon in Texas, the kind of day when the sun feels heavy and the ground smells like baked earth. Amelia Rhodes, a woman whose name alone stirred business circles, had come to the countryside for the first time in years. Her doctor had insisted she take a break from her high-pressure life, and her assistant had booked her a week at a quiet ranch far from the city noise she lived in. She hadn't expected to meet anyone. And she certainly hadn't expected to almost step on a rattlesnake. Amelia was walking a dusty trail, wearing shoes far too expensive for dirt. She'd been trying to record a voice memo when she heard the voice of a stranger behind her. "Don't move," he warned. Her phone nearly slipped from her hand. She turned her eyes, not her body, toward the direction of the voice. A man in a weathered hat, boots worn with real life on them, and sun-darkened skin stood a few feet behind her. His eyes were steady, focused not on her but on the ground near her right ankle. A chill ran through Amelia's chest. What is it?" she whispered. He took one slow step forward. "Rattler," he said softly. "It's coiled. One wrong move and it'll strike." Her entire body tensed. She could feel sweat gathering at the base of her neck. She was a woman used to boardrooms, billion-dollar negotiations, and controlling every situation. But this she could not negotiate with. The cowboy lifted his hand, calming her like one would soothe a frightened horse. "My name's Mason," he said gently. "I'm not gonna let anything happen to you." For a moment, she stared at him, wondering why a stranger's voice felt steadier than her own heartbeat. He crouched slowly, keeping his eyes on the snake. It was small, but its rattle was raised, trembling with warning. "Just breathe," Mason murmured. "Nice and slow." It felt impossible. Amelia's chest tightened, her legs threatening to shake. But she listened, mostly because she had no choice. Mason extended a long stick he must have picked up from the trail. His movements were controlled, respectful. He nudged the dirt near the snake, gently encouraging it away from her. The rattler hesitated, its head bobbing. Then, with a rustle that made Amelia's skin crawl, it slithered off toward the brush. "You're okay now," Mason said. Amelia exhaled so hard her knees almost gave out. Mason stepped forward and placed a steadying hand under her elbow. "You sure you can stand?" he asked. She nodded, though she wasn't sure at all. "Thank you," she breathed. I didn't even see it." "Most people don't," he replied. "Snakes blend into the earth. Gotta walk with softer eyes out here." Amelia let out a shaky laugh. "I walk with spreadsheets." He smiled. It was a quiet smile, gentle, one that lived mostly in his eyes. "I figured you weren't from around here." They walked together toward the ranch, the tension melting step by step. Mason walked beside her but not too close, giving her space to gather herself. The quiet between them wasn't awkward. It felt grounding. The kind of peace she hadn't known in years. "So what brings you out here?" he asked eventually. "Doctor's orders," she admitted. "Apparently stress is bad for your heart." Mason chuckled. "Out here, stress doesn't last long. Too much sky for it." She looked up. He was right. The sky stretched endlessly above them, bright, forgiving, enormous. "When's the last time you took a breath where you didn't think about work?" he asked. Amelia lowered her gaze. I don't remember. Mason studied her quietly, and she sensed no judgment, only understanding. As they reached the fence near the ranch, Amelia felt a strange tug inside her, like she didn't want the conversation to end. You saved my life, she said softly. Just did what anyone would have done. No, she shook her head. Most people don't look out for strangers. Not anymore. Mason leaned against the fence post. Kindness goes both ways, he said. You give some, you get some. World's harsh enough as it is. Something in his voice, simple, unpolished truth, hit her harder than she expected. She had built a life on strength, independence, flawless reputation. But she hadn't built much on kindness. Not toward others, and definitely not toward herself. Over the next few days, Amelia found reasons to cross paths with Mason, though she pretended it was coincidence. Sometimes they talked by the horses. Sometimes they shared coffee on the porch. Sometimes they just walked the trails, silently taking in the world around them. And slowly, something softened in her. She noticed how he greeted everyone by name. How he offered help without being asked. How he believed that kindness was strength, not weakness. She found herself wanting to see things through his eyes, slower, deeper, more human. On the last evening of her stay, the sun painted the sky in warm streaks. Amelia stood near the pasture fence where Mason was closing the gate. I don't want to leave, she confessed. Mason paused, resting his hands on the wood. That's the thing about peace, he said. Once you find it, leaving isn't easy. She looked at him, really looked at him. A man who lived simply, but fully. A man who saw her not as Amelia Rhodes the millionaire, but just Amelia. You taught me something, she whispered. What's that? She took a breath. Kindness isn't small. It changes people. It changed me. He tipped his hat slightly, a gesture so tender it made her heart warm. Then you take it with you. Spread it, wherever you go. That's how kindness works. Amelia blinked back the sting in her eyes. She knew she couldn't stay forever, but she also knew she would never go back to being the woman who walked with spreadsheets instead of softer eyes. She extended her hand. Thank you, Mason. For saving me that day. And for everything after. He shook her hand, his grip warm, steady. Come back anytime, he said. You've got a friend here. As Amelia drove away the next morning, she watched the ranch fade in her rearview mirror. But the peace, the clarity, the reminder that kindness still existed in the world, that stayed with her. And for the first time in years, she smiled without forcing it. Because she understood now, kindness doesn't just save people from snakes. Sometimes, it saves them from themselves. And that is something worth spreading every single day.